Cheers. Hey y'all, welcome back to another day of Vlogmas. We're finally actually in the kitchen. I mean, I live in a studio apartment, so I'm always in my kitchen. But today we're actually making something, and this time we're actually making a dish that I grew up eating. It's one of my favorites in the world, and it is acorn squash pudding, or theoretically it's called a Thanksgiving pudding. It is a steamed pudding using acorn squash. My mom made it for us growing up, so it's like pumpkin pie without the crust, which personally I don't really like the crust myself, so this is preferred. So other things you're gonna need. You're gonna need acorn squash. This one is 2 pounds. You actually only need about 1 pound, so I'm only gonna be using half of it. Then you are going to need a cup of brown sugar. I'm hoping I've got enough. If not, I can also supplement some of the artificial brown sugar that I have. But you need a cup of dark brown sugar, cake flour. Who knew this was actually going to come in handy from last year? And actually, this is still within the expiration, so I'm good. It calls for heavy cream. I only have milk, and also with these, both require half a cup. And then we are going to need actually 5 eggs. 5 eggs! But again, steamed pudding. As well as things like allspice, cinnamon, which I almost thought I didn't have cinnamon, vanilla, and I'm going to top mine off with a little bit of whipped cream and nutmeg. However, this will probably be used actually tomorrow because this is for a potluck for the, not research group, but for the department. So this is a pretty easy recipe, although I also forgot, we need a 1/4 cup of butter. I had it on the microwave so it could warm up a bit because we are going to have to cream it. So this is pretty much all that we're going to have or need. And the big thing is all you need is a microwave. Yes, we only need a microwave because, fun fact, my mother prefers to use the microwave on a lot of things. Like the only food she ever makes is one that uses the microwave. She does not use a double boiler. And this acorn squash pudding, which is a steamed pudding, again, we're just making it in the microwave. It's great. I probably will overcook it because this microwave has more power than the ones that were in the cookbook she has, which I think is a Sunset cookbook from the 80s. Don't quote me on it. She just sent me the photos and they're really shoddy, like here. So this is why I had to write it all out for us. But yeah, so let me just cube up the butter because we're gonna have a 1/4 cup, so we're gonna have half a stick of butter, and we need to cut it up into tablespoons. So let me get to that. I get to use the big knife. I only use this with my squashes. I think the last time I used this knife was with the, what was it, spaghetti squash a couple years ago, which is before I really started vlogging again. I'm not gonna show that because this is gonna be stressful for me, so we're not gonna watch it. Okay, I got the squash halved, and so yeah, that went pretty smoothly actually. So now I just need to de-seed it, and then I will wrap it up in saran wrap. Okay, so I've got it wrapped up, and now I'm gonna just pop this in the microwave for 8 minutes on 100%. I think that's correct. I will double check to see if they mention a wattage on there, and if they do, I will adjust, but yeah, let's go. Okay, so I have the sugar and I have the butter, and I actually cubed it a little bit more than what they said because in this case they use a food processor. I don't have one, I don't have one big enough. So we're just gonna mix it by hand to cream the sugar and butter together. So let's go. You can hear the microwave going right now as it's slowly cooking, and I did not see anything about the wattages, so we're just gonna go with it. Okay, so this has been creamed enough, so I'm just gonna wait and for the acorn squash to get closer to room temperature. Okay, so the acorn squash is still kind of hot, but we can start scraping a bit. And yes, I'm using a measuring cup because, as you guys can see, it's not actually good for measuring. And I'll use an actual spoon later, but yeah, you can see that steam coming off, maybe, I don't know. But it's warm, so I think I'm gonna do a little bit right now, mix, and then do more. Yep, you can see it definitely changes that texture quickly, that moisture content. Okay, now I just grabbed a normal spoon to get some of the crevices, and I'm still having to be a little bit careful because hot. But yeah, let's start to scrape. It's not a super fun smell, but I've never been one for squash much. Like, honestly, that is not one of my go-tos, but acorn squash pudding, oh, favorite meal, honestly. Like, when I go home, I do ask my mom to make it for me, because also these last couple of times I've only usually been home for the holidays, so this is like a perfect meal for the holidays. Also, this is great as breakfast, so like I may make a second batch with that other half and just use that for breakfast for myself for a couple of days. It's so good. And this is only, I'll be honest, my second attempt ever making it. The first time I made this, I forgot something. I cannot remember, but I forgot a critical ingredient. Probably the eggs, or maybe it was the flour. It's one of those two that I forgot, but overall it still tasted amazing, so that's all that mattered. There it goes. I mean, it's fine, it's clean. I washed it before I microwaved. This is just falling apart, so I may not have this at 9 minutes for when I have to cook it again, but we'll see. Okay, so that is everything. Okay, now let's mix the rest. Okay, acorn mixed. Now let's add milk and flour. Okay, so I added the milk. Like I said, it was supposed to be heavy cream. I only had 1%, which I know will be fine because that's what my mom makes it with, because that's what we have at the house. Funny story, my apparently pediatrician had wanted me on non-fat as like a toddler. I mean, I was a chunky kid, but my mom makes chunky kids. But my mom was like, no, I cannot handle skim, so we're doing 1% instead of 2, which had been the normal for the family. And then a half cup of cake flour. So now let's get to more mixing. Also, it was supposed to be sifted, but oh well. I did not feel like getting my sieve messy today because that sucker takes forever to clean. So we're just not. So we do have a few lumps, so I'm going to have to mix a decent amount. So I'll catch y'all in a bit. Okay, so my camera just decided to start. I'm right now working to crack a couple of the eggs, all of the eggs, just so I can, and I'm doing this step by step. Oh, this is gonna be fun for cleaning because some of the egg spilled down. This is just my life. I've been baking a lot, not a lot more, but I was able to bake a couple weeks ago for a couple of different events. Specifically, it was the last day of class for when I was teaching, and then also Mace, which is the club. We had a Friendsgiving, so yeah. Now my hands are all eggy, so I gotta wash them. Okay, let's mix these together. I was able to more or less get the lumps out, and I think having the egg will also help smooth everything out. So after that is just adding seasonings. And yes, I now added an apron because I was like, oh, I'm wearing a white shirt and this is gonna stain so easily. Yeah, oh, I am so excited for this and to kind of show this to my friends and colleagues because it's not something that's typical. Remember at Thanksgiving I was actually talking to my cousins about it because this was just something that my mom made. This was not something that was like a family recipe for the extended family. But they were kind of interested, although one of my cousins is more of a fan of the actual, what's-its-face? Probably overbeating this a bit, but whatever. Is more of a fan of crust than of filling, and I'm like, I'm the reverse. So what you're saying is next Thanksgiving, we just get 2 pieces for ourselves. You give me all the filling, I'll give you all my crust. Okay, so now everything is more or less mixed. There just seems to be some little spots of... Is that butter? Yeah, that's butter. Whatever. So now we're just going to add the vanilla, which is 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And then the other is going to be, it is 3/4 of a teaspoon of cinnamon right there, yeah. So you could also probably just use like pumpkin spice, because again, this is just a squash based dessert. And then it is a 1/4 teaspoon of allspice. 1/4 teaspoon of allspice. That was more or less. With seasonings, with spices, I'm a little bit more meh, we'll do whatever. I'm almost curious if I should add a little bit of nutmeg with this too, just to increase that pumpkin-y spice flavor. But that's also why I thought when actually serving it, I was going to make it, make sure I had whipped cream and nutmeg to add on top. Okay, so I now have it. Theoretically, it's supposed to be in a bowl. I don't have a bowl, so I just put it in this Pyrex dish. And you put saran wrap on top and you cook it for 9 minutes. Yes, I know, 9 minutes, that's a lot, but that's what we need to do. So now that the acorn squash is out of the oven, you let it sit for 15 minutes. You also are supposed to pierce the saran wrap and then put a heavy plate. I didn't have a heavy plate that would work for this, so I put my materials textbook, like this book. This is the Bible for Materials Engineering by Callister. Yeah, everybody literally just refers to that textbook as Callister, and it is what everybody uses for their Intro to Material Science class. It's what I used it when I was an undergrad. It is what they use here at Kentucky, and this is also what they use at like Berkeley. So if you're interested in materials engineering, get Callister. Okay, so everything has cooked. I know it looks kind of weird, but it should taste delicious. And this was letting it sit for about 15 minutes. I'm going to soon cut it up and have a little sample just to make sure, because if not, I gotta figure out something else to do for this potluck. So let's go and try it out. Okay, so I've cut it up into smaller cubes and we are going to try this. Texture is good, very sweet, but yeah, I think this will go over well. And I have cubed it up into smaller sections, so I'm just gonna put it in like little muffin, like cupcake holders, and then put it in a tray and just have that as how I'm serving it. I think that'll be probably the best way, I think. I may put this just right now in the fridge and then in the morning end up transferring everything over, because I think having it in little containers will be better than having it just in this, because then it looks pretty meh. But have that with a little bit of whipped cream, I think it'll be good. So I hope y'all liked this, and we'll do a couple more recipes. Please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!